Alright, what's up everyone to another episode of POV Analysis. Today we have Time, one of the most underrated Terrans in the world of StarCraft in my opinion. I think for a long time he has been a top 3 foreign Terran, sometimes even top 2 above Hero Marine. And after last weekend's tournament in a DreamHack, he might even be first place. He was the best placing foreigner, even better than Cheryl Rayner, Clem, etc. And Clem would slightly in a slight slump. Time might actually have the best foreign Terran spot at the moment. Now, I really wanted to look at his gameplay because he's a bit different from all the other Terrans. He's very... I looked at the replays a little bit over the tournament, and he's very ruthless. He really just goes in there and attacks and micros his way to victory. Like, it's cool to see. And he has some awesome builds as well. I'm going to stay on his POV, but I have a feeling since he's such a ruthless, aggressive Terran, he might be jumping all over the place a little bit too much. And if that's the case, I'll prevent you guys some dizziness. I'll just get off it for now, because in the early game people are always spamming. He's already going to start this off with a mind game build, going for a fast wall off. This is actually a strategy I've used as well in Blackburn. I'm not quite sure what his follow-up is going to be, but in general this is really nice. Since he has no gas, he's probably just going to expand behind it. But for the Protoss point of view, this could honestly be anything. It could be CC going down right there, it could be 2 barracks proxied, like in a speedrunning episode, or a factory, 1 base all in. It could be anything, honestly. But in this case, it looks like it's actually just going to be a command center. Obviously, we see there's no barracks proxied. There is no gas, sorry. Marine first, actually. That's interesting. I feel like usually when I do this, I like to make the Reaper, because then you can really hunt the probe down. Wow. There's no way Zest actually fell for that. But then he didn't micro. Okay, that's unlucky. He actually baited Zest so hard by lowering the depot, but then instead of microing, he was busy getting his CC down. So let's see. He actually has enough money for another barracks. Okay, so he's going to go for kind of a 2-on-1 style. I've actually done this build before as well. I'm curious how it's going to play out for him. The reason why I like this build personally is because if you have a wall off and there's something cheesy on the way, a lot of Protoss players, they like to go for Stargate as a response, because Stargate shuts down, pretty much any cheese. I feel like everything on the ground especially. And then 2-on-1 is actually pretty good against Stargate. So that's why I definitely like this build. He's going to go for it as well. I'm going to pretend he stole it from me. That's actually possible, by the way, but we'll see. Now, what's different between Time and me, for example, in the way he plays, is that I would try to do some damage, but take it safe, and then try like a safe push after. Time really sends his units in, like he plays really aggressive, a little bit like Beyond maybe. But I feel like he does plan for the late game a little bit more than Beyond. Like, I don't often actually see him go for an all-in. Like, he actually likes to go to the late game a little bit more. He showed it in DreamHack as well, a lot of ghost play especially. And yeah, Zest still has no idea. Of course, he scouted the entire map, looks like. Like you can see in the mini-map, pretty much everything is scouted around this base anyway. Except for this place, funny enough. If there was a proxy, this is like the most common place to proxy in. But when is Time gonna attack? I imagine he's probably gonna lift it there right away. I'm surprised he hasn't made a bunker yet, actually. I feel like usually with this kind of play, you would see a bunker on a low ground at some point. Zest is playing Oracle, which is definitely a good choice when you don't know what's going on, to be honest. But against 2-on-1, it might not necessarily be the best. Like we see, there's no Twilight or anything on the way yet. Right? No, yeah, it's just a gateway. Okay. I feel like Time's opener has already paid off. I feel like this style is really Time's openers. Like stuff like Proxy Reaper, like fake 1-base, stuff like that. That's really Time's jam, I feel like. So I'm gonna go 12 Marines. If I have to guess, he's gonna make tanks behind this as well. Let's see if he pops down a Tech Lab on this. There we go, Tech Lab goes down. Oracle's flying to the main though. Well, yeah, Zest is playing a little bit scared because when Terrans do this, it's actually very common that they actually have mines. If I was Time, what I would do is I would click all my SCVs on this gas and fake that there is a mine there. And then Zest probably would back off. Now this is when the chaos probably starts. Because I know Time, he gets revelated, but he's still going to go for it. Even though there's a Stargate out. He could very well find a Void Ray or a Phoenix or something on his path. But this is Time, guys, so he's going to go for that, which is really cool. Third barracks goes down on the reactor as well. Looks like he's really going to set up for a 2-base Marine tank kind of play. That is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, he really is not worried. He just goes in. This time he kind of had to go in because he actually lost a bunch of SCVs at home. Let's see. With time, you can pretty much always expect good micro, by the way. I feel like he's usually on top. He's one of those... he's one of those young Terrans that don't really blunder in the control very often at all. I'm not sure how young he is exactly at this point. I'm pretty sure... Time is actually the first time I got kind of shocked when I watched... like, I like to look at players' Wikipedia pages and stuff. And I feel like Time is the first player that I saw that was born in, like, the 2000s. Like, right now, there's already, like, GM players that are from, like, 2008 and stuff like that. But I feel like Time, he was the first player when I started feeling like, damn, man, these young kids are really popping off in StarCraft these days. He's getting combat shields as well. Honestly... I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes again instantly. Like if he gets his tank out or maybe another medevac, he's probably gonna go right away. Hunting down the oracles as well. Generally plays a very high pace game style. Doesn't really give you a lot of room to breathe. That's also my experience when I played against him. I've known Time for a long time because when I was in the Korean team house to practice, Time was actually there as well, so I was able to kind of experience him before he was like a top player already. And I actually took some builds from him because he already had a lot of builds that were cool like this. One build that Time actually invented that many people don't know about is the TVT tank drop. The like 4 units like Reaper Hellion and followed by the medevac with 4 Marines and a tank. It's super common. Maru does it all the time especially. It was actually Time who started doing that build. And I stole it from him and I used it to great effect in tournaments. Sadly now it's a popular build. But this is one of the moves I was talking about. Just straight up drop the tanks on someone's ramp. I feel like you pretty much never see someone do this with siege tanks because... Yeah, I mean, it's a siege tank. You want to siege with it, you know. You don't want to go in brutally, drop on their ramp. You want to, like, siege their front, get a good position. But Time is not like that, guys. He even had... Oh, this is actually a super cool move. I actually feel sad that this didn't pay off for him. He actually did a drop, and he sent all the other Marines to stim into the third to kill all the probes. But Zest didn't have it yet. I actually really like that move. That could have been an enormous play. Instead, Zest was just on 2 bases and it's not going to do a whole lot. But honestly, I love the thought behind that. Very often, if you have bio units without medevacs to accompany them, they feel kind of useless. It feels like it's hard to do something with them. You should rather just wait for more medevacs. But that's actually one of the coolest uses I've seen. Like, just distract someone and then run in literally the excess of Marines you have that don't fit into the medevacs, run them into another base. Excuse me. So like I said, he does always go for the macro game still. He doesn't very often all in, so here you can see he's still going for that 3rd CC. He actually closed the depot in Time against DTs. I was literally observing and I didn't even see them. Not gonna lie, like I was literally watching it and I didn't see it. Sorry, Zest is trying... Sorry, excuse me. Zest is trying a desperate attack, but honestly, Time just has way too much. And yeah, for me, that was just a typical Time game. Very aggressive, gets it done fast in his face. Alright, well, that was a typical TVP. I would also like to take a look at one of his TVZs against Dongregu. Alright, so here's Time against Mr. DRG. This is actually from the quarterfinals of the DreamHack. Remember, I told you guys Time had the best run out of any foreigner, any non-Korean player. And his match against DRG was actually the quarterfinals match. I think the score was actually 1-1 at this point. I always like to add some context. Pretty sure it was 1-1. And Time did actually end up beating Dongregu in this best of 5, which was super impressive because DRG was actually the one to knock out Cyril, knock out the big foreigner who usually comes to play in these big events, and kind of took his foreign throne for himself, which is really cool. Now, when I watched a little bit of Time against DRG, it was, you know, kind of similar to his TVZ. He is so aggressive, but most importantly, he's so decisive with his units. Like, he always gets his drops in, doesn't hesitate even for a second. And like the Time won actually the game before this, he won game 2, and it was pretty much like that. He did one attack at the front, did a drop in the main, microed everything properly, and just won. Like, very clean, very decisive gameplay. And I feel like this actually, by the way, Time made it to the semifinals, and I think this was his first top 4 in a very long time. And also his biggest one in the biggest event. Because DreamHack Last Chance, yeah, it quite literally has the 16 best players. Obviously, some of them may not have qualified, but it is pure qualifying, no invitation spots at all. And he made top 4, so yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call him a top 4 player in the world, but in this event he was. So that's very, very impressive, of course. And still, I feel like not many people talk about him. It's probably because you don't see him highlighted as much, because he usually plays in the Korean region, plays the Korean Cups and all that, and you don't really see him in EU and NA that much. But when there is a qualifier on the NA server for non-Koreans, I feel like he always makes it. He also qualified for this one in the NA qualifier, which also had Koreans, by the way. It was server locked, but not region locked. So far, so good. I do think it's funny that there's a lot of these aggressive players. The one that come to mind to me are Time and Clem. And they play a generally very aggressive playstyle, but at the same time they don't really proxy. Which is funny to me, because if you think about, you know, other aggressive players like maybe like Björn, or honestly Maru sometimes. I know Maru recently plays a lot late game, but typically proxy racks is just very popular for Terrans, especially the aggressive ones, but I feel like I also don't see Time proxy racks very often at all. And you know, I guess it makes sense because, in my opinion, proxy racks is not the best build ever these days, and I guess Time feels like he can be aggressive without having to proxy racks, which is a big thing to have, by the way. I feel like a lot of Terrans kind of get stuck into either you play 3cc or you proxy racks kind of thing, but Time, I feel like he has enough stuff going on. He's playing 3cc right now. I think he still did something aggressive this game. I'm not sure quite what it was, but we'll find out soon enough. But yeah, I feel like he's definitely one of the more... He has a lot of cool builds, you know. He's not necessarily stuck in the standard patterns of Terran. And that has always been a big strength of the Terran race in general, that there are a lot of different builds you can do. I feel like a lot of time they look kind of the same, but if you know just when to use which variation of which aggression, I feel like it often pays off big time.
Command center upgrade complete.
Just gonna make... This is the first thing I noticed, by the way. Everything looks standard, right? But one thing I noticed is that he is making Marines from his barracks. Normally, you usually go for a tech lab right away to make stim, and there's no point in really making those single Marines. But he is making them, which doesn't have to mean anything. It could just be scouting denial. But as you can see, it is costing him a little bit on that Hellion production right now. Keep in mind he had to spend a lot of minerals on an extra command center and getting a second gas up and stuff like that. So I guess it really is just for scouting denial, which is cool. Honestly, I always respect when people think about scouting denial. I feel like a lot of Terrans, or on any race in general, have like a brute force approach. Like, I just macro perfectly and micro perfectly, and the scouting doesn't matter. But at the same time, if you think about it, denying scouting very often is not super complicated. So yeah, you might as well do it if you can. And I do like it when they go for that extra effort. So here we can see that SCV in the top right of Time's base making an armor. And now I kind of remember what this is going to be. This is going to be a multitasking kind of build. Pretty ancient, honestly. I haven't seen it a lot. What he's going to do is he's going to drop 4 Hellions into the main, morph them into Hellbats, and then also have 4 Hellbats at the front, making it hard to split the queens. Because if you just send links to one side, the Hellbats are going to clean them up. So it's kind of a multitasking test for both. He did mess up his wall a little bit there, didn't he? Yeah, this is open. Unless it's an anti-roach wall, I don't know. Seems a bit questionable, right? Especially against DRG. DRG is not really a roach guy, if I'm honest. And this is the weirdest wall I've ever seen. Like, look at that last depot he made as well. Like, it's pretty scuffed. Not gonna lie, this is pretty scuffed. So here we go. Drop is gonna go into the main. It's gonna have to add some extra barracks and E-base as well. There we go. Probably gonna land that third as well, or maybe wait for one more SCV, possible. And this is when the attack begins. Like I said, multitasking test. He's gonna go in, try to target some drones, but when the links come, gonna morph them into Hellbats. Gonna do some micro, lift up the Hellbats that are being surrounded. And then the other Hellbats are gonna be... Actually, he's gonna use them as Hellions. I actually like that. You can always morph them into Hellbats later. But you can see the Hellbats in the main are actually going ham. Because of exactly what I said, he didn't split the queens. He just sent the links. Honestly, I think he just thought it was actually a Hellion drop without armor, which also happens, of course. But he was mistaken, and it cost him a little bit. As you can see, the worker count is even. Not usually where you want to be as Zerg. And now with these Hellbats, you can just camp in the choke like that. And notice how he's doing a really good job at microing, but he never, like... How to put this? Like, he never puts too much attention. Like, he's still focusing on the macro. He made his add-ons. He's lifting his bases and stuff, while doing a great job macroing. Like, this is just a good example of good multitasking from the Terran. Kept his other Hellions alive as well. I think they're on the top right now. And let's see what the follow-up is going to be. Now, he is actually going to go for siege tanks, which I like it if he's going to be aggressive, which, you know, he's probably going to do, because this map has a lot of good siege tank spots. Based on what he scouted, which is, yeah, Ling Bane, probably Mutas. He didn't see the Spire, but this just looked like Mutas to me. There's a lot of gas, 6 gas, in fact, Ling Bane. Like, this can't really be anything else than Mutalisks. So I wouldn't be surprised if he would have gone for mines right away. In fact, that's what I would expect. But seems like he's going to go and actually abuse those tank positions later on. He is making drilling claws at a decent time though. And a very fast forward CC, by the way. 7-minute fourth base. Not bad at all. And yeah, I feel like you can really see those... the typical time style that I was talking about, right? Like, he plays aggressive, he wants to do stuff, but he doesn't quite commit that hard. Like, he's still, you know, going for the macro game, getting the extra CCs. Second factory on the way as well, indicating he definitely wants to switch to mines, probably get a reactor on that. And look, this is one of those beautiful tank spots that I talked about, just behind the rocks. Super hard to kill this position, honestly, unless you have a really overwhelming amount of units. Which DRG doesn't have, because he kind of got owned in the opener by the Hellbat attack. Now, this amount of Queens is actually enough to beat this amount of Marines, so he has to be careful. Mutas coming in. Once again, really clean micro by time. Doesn't get hit by any Baneling, snipes a few Mutas, and if he gets out of there, that was just a fantastic trade already. There's the reactor on the factory. Adding his barracks pretty fast. Like, I'm going to remember that timing. He actually skipped some units to make more barracks. Made them at 8 minutes. I feel like sometimes it's kind of hard to fit those extra like 6 to 8 barracks into your build order. Because, you know, you're getting your planetary, you're getting your tutu and all of that. But it does seem like he skipped a few units for it. And I don't know if you guys remember, a long time ago I did a Clem POV analysis. And Time is actually using the same principle of always just attacking the base on the outside. Like, he could have pushed through here, he didn't do it. He could have walked through the middle, couldn't do it. He always just goes to the outer base. So he went all the way here, denied this base, and now he went all the way around to deny the other outer base. Because you never want to be stuck in the middle of the creep, getting surrounded by mass Ling Bane. Like, he's really just following the basic principle of TVZ. Following a, you know, disciplined playstyle. Doesn't just YOLO over creep because he has the lead. I mean, right now he kind of has to because his base is under attack. I wonder if that he could have reacted a bit better if he had a sensor tower. But his response was still really good. He only lost 7 SCVs. And instead, he's killing a fourth base and putting an insane amount of pressure on the third base. And most importantly, like, the supply looks crazy. But it is pretty likely that this push actually gets cleaned up. But if you look at the worker count, plus the upgrades, it looks like Time is just in a fantastic spot. DRG is not going to be able to touch his economy already. And let's see how that... Okay, does target fire the siege tanks pretty well, but just a few too many Banelings. Still gets a good trade though. Like I said, clean micro by him. No big blunders at all. And yeah, now DRG is going to have to play from pretty far behind. And this is honestly the game I personally really love, because this really didn't look like rocket science, you know? He had like a few good moves, clean micro, has the transitions on point, gets ahead. And yeah, honestly, it looked like he's going to win the game pretty soon. He's probably going to gather up his forces, maybe wait for 2-2 and then try another push. Or he's just going to follow the same principle again and go for the new outer base, prevent his fourth base from going down on the bottom. And yeah, I mean, so far just clinical, honestly, making it look easy as well in this game. Hellbat attack got in. Does need to rally back a little bit. When a mine shoots an overlord, that always feels bad, honestly. Let's see, so he stopped at 76 SCVs. How many SCVs did we lose in... Oh no, what did I just do? Oops. Sorry. We'll go back to where we were, my bad. I just want to say how many SCVs. Okay, so he only lost 7. How do I get rid of that again? Guys. Production is failing. Okay, we're back. So he lost 7 SCVs and he's still at 76, so that seems like the SCV count he wants to be at. I feel like... It's a very typical Terran mistake. I do the same to actually make too few SCVs. So you kind of end up having like 66, but then if you lose 10, it's actually a huge deal all of a sudden. Once again, good splits by Time. Gonna lose the fight, but he killed the fourth base. Super worth it, honestly. Normally, I think that trade would not be that good. But since it, yeah, you know, we are in this economic situation that I've been talking about, It's just fantastic. Like, you can see the 3 arrows in the bottom indicating the time has way more economy, 1k more minerals, and even more gas. So honestly, that trade was just perfect. Oh, look at the Thor. Yo, that Thor position actually, it was actually stuck, but it actually helped out so much. It was stuck in the main because the depots were not lowered, but actually helped defending the middles, which is nice. And I feel like this is kind of when Time knows he has won the game. If you look at the mini-map, the base in the bottom is not being taken. This base is probably going to go down because there's no creep, or DRG is going to take a bad fight. And this honestly has been one of the most clean TVZ victories I've seen in a while. Especially against someone as good as DRG. This was actually beautiful. And yeah, we have to give it to him. And Time right now is in awesome shape. Looking really good against Zest. Looking really good against DRG. He did run into Maru in this tournament and lost with Maru's TVT. Yeah, it might be the hardest matchup to beat in the world, Maru's TVT. But yeah, awesome games by Time. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought. Don't forget to sub and like. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios.